Okay, a couple of days ago I made a video mainly referring to shadow mask implementation in MAME, and one of the things in that video that I discussed was that if you want a very pristine looking shadow mask that wasn't affected by anything in HLSL that could have a negative distortion or an impact to muddy it up, you would want to disable screen curvature and even scan lines if you just wanted the perfect shadow mask without anything kind of interfering. But then I did point out that that's the extreme case, and at a distance you don't necessarily see much of the shadow mask effect, if at any, and you can compromise and say, well, maybe I do want some shadow mask with scan lines and screen curvature, maybe even, and you find what's best for you. But I wanted to cover the truth about what things did, like how good can it look and what are the compromises and stuff like that. Anyways, after I made the video, I started thinking about it, and I was like, I did that with MAME version 0.192. And what if there's been a change in a newer version of MAME that affects some of the stuff that I discussed in that video? So I was like, I better do my due diligence and go download the latest version of MAME. And so that's what I did. And then I did find out there was a change that had an impact on some of the topics I was discussing. So here's a screenshot with the old MAME 0.192 that I was using in that video, and here is a screenshot now of the latest version of MAME with the same settings as far as like my HLSL settings, my saturation, my defocus, my scan line percentage was 30% on both. I use slot mask on both with the 12 and the 16, and 30%, alpha. Like all the settings were identical, and at a distance they don't really look that much different. Here, the newer one is the one with the black bars here. And in the newer one, the only thing that's different is it seems slightly darker, slightly. And I'm like, okay, well, let's zoom in and see what's going on here. If you zoom in really close on the new one, you just get like this nice, pretty slot mask, RGB effect. The old one with the same settings, you would with scan lines on, you would get this ugly white interference in the way. This just plain white right here in the way. And with the same settings and with scan line at 30% in the new version as well, all of a sudden you don't get that ugly white in the way. So it looks like, oh, cool. In the new version of MAME, you can use scan lines with shadow mask without it muddying everything up and making it look worse. So you get to use your shadow mask and your scan lines together like this, as opposed to like this, where you get these solid white lines interfering. So it's an improvement, and it's like, well, how'd they do that? It's like they put the shadow mask on top of the scan lines instead of the scan lines on top of the shadow mask. So I'm going to close this out and I'll show you what I mean. So in both of them, if you go into artwork and you go down to scanlines.png and you zoom in, it's just this. It's the same thing in the new version. So okay, here's in the new version, scanlines.png. Same thing. They didn't change that. What they did change though is the way they did it. So now if you go into the HLSL folder of the new one, down here at the bottom, zoom in, down here at the bottom you have scanline.fx. Okay? Along with a lot of other effects that didn't used to be here. So if you go into the old MAME and you go to your HLSL folder, you've got, no scanline.fx. So I'm like, huh, that's interesting. So anyways, my video was out of date because apparently in the new version of MAME you can have an improved scanline plus shadow mask interaction, so to speak, so that when zoomed in really, really close, your shadow mask is not muddied up by your scanline effect. Now, I do think that means that people who really want a really dark scan line will have to pump up the value more to achieve that, but that's another matter. So anyways, that's one thing that's different. And while I was in there peeking around at the new MAME, there's some other stuff that's a little different too. If you go to your mame.ini on the new MAME and you take a look down at core performance options, you will see that there is now a low latency option here. So that's cool. Oh, that's different, you know. And they've also added in, let me see if I can find it. Maybe it was up higher, I don't know. Probably higher up. Let me go higher, back up. Yeah, they've also added in the rewind feature, so you can rewind if you make a mistake. I don't have that enabled, but that's new. And they've added this share directory, share. So I don't know how that works. I haven't looked at that really. So they've got, and then they got a couple of new things going on in the new version of MAME. All right. Anyways, but also, oh yeah, one more thing. Let me go ahead and launch the new version of MAME here. If you go to options, default system options, in advanced tab, that's where you've got this low latency you can toggle on and off, and if you toggle it on and apply and OK, it'll write it to your mame.ini. In case you had borrowed my older mame.ini and just overrode everything to use my HLSL effects from the other day, and you were on a new version of MAME, when you did that, you would have lost your low latency mode because my old mame.ini didn't have that in there as a line. So all you'd have to do is come in here and tick this box and hit apply OK. It'll add that line back in or whatever. But anyways, under this video I'll probably put like a updated mame.ini that accounts for the new version of MAME with that change. But there's also another change. If you go to sound, it used to be that you would just have direct sound and port audio. Now you got X Audio 2, Windows 10 only. I have found out that port audio, while it's supposed to be a little bit less laggy audio, can be incompatible with some people's setup, and it can be a little finicky. Sometimes you'll, like for instance, NVIDIA Shadowplay that I'm using to record this video, if I had port audio selected, you wouldn't be able to hear my gameplay audio for some reason. It's like little issues like you could run into. So in the past, in my mame.ini, I might not want to have port audio selected. I might just want direct sound for compatibility for anybody. But you know, power users, just select port audio or whatever, and you know, or you could try the new X Audio 2 if you're in Windows 10 or whatever. So anyways, I was looking at that, and it made me think, I wonder if the sound's better on X Audio 2. So I was checking out sound comparisons and really trying to listen, and I discovered something. But before I get into that, let me look at the ini and see how I have my audio set up at the moment. Let me come down. I believe this is going to be X Audio 2. Port audio options. Where is it? Oh god, I probably went right past it, didn't I? It's got to be down here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. I have it as X Audio 2. But you can also set it up as port audio if you want, but I'm not going to do that right now. But if you wanted to set that up, it would basically be something like this. Let me open up a backup or something. If you wanted port audio to try at home for yourself, here's what you would do. You would have sound as port audio, and then you would put audio latency at 0 and hope that you don't get crackles and that your system can handle it. And you would choose this Windows Wasapi. I'm using my default that I've set, default output, and then latency for port audio 0.003334, and that's how you get the some good low latency audio, and you'd save that and try it. If it doesn't work, you can go back to how it was. So don't save changes. And the way I had it before was, come down to the audio, I had it as sound auto, right? And the default audio latency is 1, so that these options didn't matter. And that's probably the mame.ini that you guys have got from me if you ever downloaded my mame.inis. So it is the most compatible, so I don't have people writing me in the comments saying, oh, I've got audio issues. It's because I put some funky, difficult audio setup. Instead, I'm just going with something really compatible, so most people probably can just run and not have a problem. But if you want to try the more advanced stuff, change auto to port audio, and change audio latency to 0, and you can leave this how it is. But also you can try that new one out if you got the new version of MAME, which is the over here. It's the X Audio 2. But anyways, long story short, I discovered that the audio is different between the old version of MAME and the new version of MAME even if you're on the same, like, I thought at first, oh, it's X Audio 2 made an improvement in the sound balancing in certain games. But then I was like, well, let me try to see if I put them both on direct sound or I put them both on port audio. And no matter what I did, the sound was better on the new version of MAME. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to launch Mortal Kombat 1 on the old version of MAME and point out some flaws with the way the sound used to be balanced in MAME in Mortal Kombat. Now, I have spent so much time around the arcade version of Mortal Kombat 1 that I know what it's supposed to sound like, so maybe other people won't be able to pick up on it, so I'll try to tell you, describe what I'm hearing and what it's supposed to sound like. But I'm going to pick Raiden, and on the character select screen, in the arcade, you would hear the background music to the character select screen pretty loud, and you would kind of hear like the zapping sound effect from the lightning coursing through Raiden's body while he's standing there on the character select screen, but it wouldn't be that obtrusive. You'd still mainly just hear the background music. Whereas in old MAME here in version 0.192, Raiden's body electricity sound effect overpowers even the background music, and it's like annoyingly loud. It's not balanced right. And then when you get into the game and you throw like projectiles with Raiden or you teleport with Raiden, in the old version of MAME, it was muddy sounding, it was quiet, and certain things were too loud, like the little whoosh sound effects, or people like, their little shouting sound effects. Those were too loud, and the background music was too quiet, the announcer was too loud, Raiden's wind pose was too quiet, like different things were just the wrong audio levels. And then in the new version of MAME, they seem to have fixed that, and I don't know how, because it's the same, like even if I use direct sound on both, it's not that that's doing it. I didn't have to upgrade my ROM, so it's not like, maybe they made an improvement to the Williams sound chips and I didn't realize. And anyways, so let me launch the old one. And just to prove that some people might be like, oh, well, it's your slider options. That's what it is. Because if you go to slider options, you'll see you have speaker, Williams, soundboards, and all these things that you can change the percentage of. And somebody might think, well, it's just you accidentally probably adjusted one of these, and that's why maybe Raiden's lightning on his body is too loud in the old version. But look, they're all default 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. Now, if I go to the new version of MAME, let me close this, the new version of MAME. Mortal Kombat, and then go to sliders. Look, they're still 1.0, 1.0, 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. They're all the same. They're all default. So I didn't change the sliders. I've done it with both on port audio and both on direct sound. Like everything's the same, but yet watch how much better it sounds on the new version. So I'm going to play the old version first with Raiden, and just listen. I'm going to turn it down a little so it's not overpowering, so if I talk you can kind of hear me. But just listen to how Raiden's electricity on his body overpowers the background music on the character select screen. That zip, 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 that's like all you hear. The background music is kind of muddy by comparison. Now when I go to the new MAME, it's going to sound like it should, where the background music is prominent the most, and then that little sound effect of his lightning on his body is toned down to the reasonable level it should be. Also, when I launch Mortal Kombat, I don't have to turn it down as much, like because they balance the audio better. Like you'll see what I'm saying. Like maybe 1 decibel or something, so that you still talk over it. The background music is way louder. The lightning on his body is so much quieter. I don't know what they did to fix that, but it affects a lot of different characters, a lot of different games. Like, listen to let me go to the old one and just start a match and listen to like when he throws his projectile, how quiet it is on the old version. So when he throws his projectile in the old version, you barely hear it. And then, like I said, all the sound effects are balanced wrong on the old version. Some things are too loud, some things are too quiet. The teleport's too quiet. That jump back sound effect, that's way too loud. That's louder than the background music. It's louder than the lightning. The teleport's barely audible. That lightning projectile, as it's traveling, not the impact sound, but the traveling sound is so quiet. All you hear is the lightning on his body over the top of all the other sound effects from him. And you barely hear his projectile. Superman's too loud. Teleport's too quiet. And his wind pose is like missing details and it's too quiet.
Raiden wins.
The announcer's too loud. Like, all the balancing is way wrong. And then if you go to the new version of MAME, everything's the same. I didn't change my mame.ini. I didn't change any sound options. I didn't change any sound sliders. But all of a sudden, you get like arcade accurate sound balancing. So let's listen.
Raiden.
You hear that teleport? It's so prominent and clear now. Listen to his projectile. Listen to that. You hear it travel when Johnny Cage ducked? Maybe he'll duck again. Listen to the travel.
Raiden wins.
And that wind pose, you hear the lightning much louder there. Ring, ring. And the announcer's not too loud. And the jump back. Whoop, 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 whoop. It's not the loudest thing in the world anymore. It's reasonable. And the details in the lightning on the projectile and the teleport sound. And the Superman's the right volume. Everything just sounds so much better. And even like Sub-Zero, you can actually hear his slide properly now. In the old game, you'd barely hear anything. But now in the new version of MAME, when you do a slide with a Sub-Zero, it's like, oh yeah, I haven't heard that properly since I played at the arcade, that I almost forgot that it sounded that interesting. It's like this shoop. You'll hear it. It's just such a cool sound. Normally you don't hear it, right? Because the audio balancing is usually so bad.
Sub-Zero wins.
Anyways, now if I can notice that with Mortal Kombat, how many other games have improved sound, I wonder? You know what I mean? Because it's not like I know why it's better. I didn't have to re-download Mortal Kombat ROM like when I got the new version of MAME, like, oh, your ROM's out of date. The new one has better sound emulation. And I didn't have to download a Williams soundboard BIOS. So where did they do the fix? Like, it's not in the audio output I chose, like whether it's port audio, direct sound, because I've done them on the same and it's still different. So long story short, I don't want to waste too much time. So there's a lot of reasons that are compelling reasons to want to maybe upgrade MAME. You get better scanline interpretation through the .fx system in HLSL that doesn't interfere with the shadow mask quality up close. You've got that new low latency tick, option. You've got your new X Audio 2 option. You've got improved sound from the comparison there. So the problem is if people upgrade, they're like, well, upgrading is hard. It's a pain in the butt. A lot of things don't work. Blah, 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 blah. So let me try to help you out a little bit. Make this super fast. I don't want this video to be like an hour long or something. But anyways, when you're upgrading, if you already had a pre-existing one, a lot of stuff you can cheat to save time. For example, the mame.ini, if I zoom in here, on your old one, this is how it's all the font color. Let me open up, man. It's stuff like like your font color, your clone colors, your folders, the layouts, whether or not the snapshots are on. It's all that kind of stuff, So by just copying the mame.ini to the new version of MAME, you don't have to redo all that over again. And then up here where you have folders, if you go in there, see like custom.ini, you could just copy that over in the folders of the new one, custom.ini, overwrite, and then when you launch MAME on the new one, if you had a custom folder with just the games you wanted in it in the custom folder, it'll just be copied over like in the old one, so you don't have to remake a new custom folder, so that saves you some time. And then if you go up to config CFG, you can copy the config folder over, and that's all your buttons, so you don't have to reset your buttons, so that saves you some more time. And then when you launch MAME on the new one, don't forget in your ini file to delete, under presets, to delete raster.ini, so it doesn't overwrite your mame.ini and make ugly colors and bad effects, so you delete that. And then you can just port over the mame.ini like from mine or from your old one, and just remember you need those you need your low latency tab, and there's some new things. So what you might want to do is just port over the relevant lines. Also, in your mame.ini, some people have asked in the past, hey, when you get that tilde key going and you're making changes in real time that you can see, it doesn't save. Then when I launch the game again later, it's like all back to default. Well, right here at the top at core configuration options, if you put this 0, if you put this right config to a 1, then any changes you make in real time with the tilde key will save, and it'll be like if you were doing it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then you made some changes in real time and then you exited the game, you'd have a tmnt.ini file, and it would have saved what you changed for that particular game only, not for all games, but for that particular game, and it'll make an individual tmt.ini file. And it's a little messy, with all these game ini files, so I don't do it. I usually leave this off. I just try to remember what I like and then change it for everything, so it's universal. But that's something I wanted to point out as well. What else? Let's see. So we talked about how you can copy over your MAME UI.ini, no problem. You can copy over custom.ini from inside the folders if you have a custom folder, save time, and your config for all your buttons. And then with your mame.ini, you want to get rid of the raster.ini that would ruin with it, and then like just kind of copy over the relevant lines, being careful in there or whatever. And then also, I will put a mame.ini that's more updated for the latest version under this video that might be helpful, but you can tweak it to your own personal taste, So then the other thing is that if you wanted, obviously, your background, you can port over. If you don't feel like having your ROMs port over, you could just in the directories, so like you go to launch MAME and then you go to options, directories, you just tell ROMs, you point to your old ROM location. Well, ROMs for my old MAME were here, and you point to them there. Same thing with artwork and snapshots, so you go to like, oh, my artwork, I'll just instead of copying that over again and having 2 copies of the same thing, I'll just find my old MAME and my old artwork folder and just port that over, you know what I mean? So there we go, and hit OK. And so then that's a lot of the work done for you. Then the last thing to do is when you go to run certain games might not run because they're missing something. Like let's say I'm going to delete something here real quick to make my point. QSound utility. Move this out of here for a minute. I'll move here. Alright, so let's say in the new version of MAME, you tried to play Street Fighter Alpha 2, and you get this error that says, hey, DL1425.bin not found. Tried in QSound HLE Street Fighter Alpha 2. Well, do you need a new Street Fighter Alpha 2 ROM? Not necessarily. It looks like what you need is a QSound _ HLE, or high level emulation. So it's you don't have to be like a know-it-all, MAME know-it-all. All you have to do is read what it says in the parentheses. Tried in QSound _ HLE. So you go, okay, so what I need is apparently a QSound BIOS that's called QSound _ HLE. Okay, so for that, I've got a handy dandy website since MU Paradise isn't around anymore. Let's see. Archive.org details mame underscore 0.232 underscore ROMs underscore merged. You can download the whole torrent if you want to wait around for a 70 gigabyte. It'll have everything, including the parent, all the clones, all the revisions from different regions, and the bootlegs and everything. And it's huge and more games than you could ever want to play. So, and the torrent might not have enough seeds anyway. So it's like, it's a big chew. But right here it says you can also click to find individual files. And remember when we tried to launch its Street Fighter Alpha 2, it was like, hey, you need qsound underscore HLE. So what we're going to do is Control F for a search bar at the top right, and we're just type qsound, and boom, there we go, right here, the second one down, qsound underscore HLE.zip. So you download that, it's really quick and painless, and then you get it and you put it in your folder. So I already have it. I'm just going to put it right back in because I'd already done that earlier today. Move that in there. Now when you go to launch your Street Fighter Alpha 2, it's happy because it knows, oh, you've got the latest qsound BIOS, And qsound is better than it used to be. So now your Street Fighter Alpha 2 will sound better than ever, Anyways, so that wasn't so bad. The error told you what it looked for and what it couldn't find, and then we just went to this website that has all the individual up-to-date, versions of all the ROMs and BIOS. Control F, you get a little search bar up here, and we just type in what we're looking for, and then we download it and put it in the ROMs folder. Let's do another example. Let's say, tell you what, I'm going to go into my ROMs folder and I'm going to pull out Virtua. Where is it? Oh, I ordered by date, so it's at the top. I'm going to pull out Virtua Racing, okay? And I'm going to pull out this little thing that you'll see why in a minute. Move here. There we go. Okay, let's say I wanted to play Virtua Racing, right? So here's Virtua Racing, and I just upgraded to the latest version of MAME, and I got my Virtua Racing ROM, and my ROM's out of date. And you can see it says, most of this says that the things it was looking for that weren't found were supposed to be in a folder called VR, because it says tried in VR, and the VR folder would be the ROM folder, right? But at the very bottom it does have another one that says it didn't find this EPR file that it looked for in M1Com VR. So it's like, okay. Now let's say that you just thought, okay, well, I must need an updated version of Virtua Racing, so I'll come to this site. In the little search bar, I'll put VR, and then I'll look for it. 37 results, go back one. Oh, there it is, vr.zip. Click it, download it, wait for that download. Okay, it's ready. So now I will just go to my downloads folder here. Where's my downloads folder? There it is, vr.zip. And I will drag that into my ROMs folder over here. Here we go, move the vr.zip that we just got from that website over to our ROMs folder. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to try to launch MAME and try to launch Virtua Racing. Now this time, instead of saying all those things that it was missing, those are covered now because we got the latest version of Virtua Racing ROM. But that bottom one, remember, that said tried in M1Com? Now, a lot of times people get to this point and then they just throw up their hands in frustration and go, I don't know what to do. I got the latest version of the ROM. It still doesn't work. Help me. Well, what does it say? Just read what it says. It says tried in M1Com, right? So, M1Com, M1COMM. All right, whatever that is, we're going to look for that. So we go to this little website, in our search bar, we're going to put m1com. What do you know? There's actually a m1com.zip, some kind of BIOS nobody's ever heard of, but okay, let's download that too. So we download it. It's done downloading. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put the m1com into our ROMs folder, whatever the heck that is. Okay, now will it let us play Virtua Racing? What do you know? Now it lets you play it. So it's like interesting, you know? Okay. Some weird BIOS I never even heard of called M1Com, you know? Okay. Integer scaling on. This is cool because it does have non-integer scaling on. But I want wide because in the BIOS of this game, I have it set to 16:9 because this is a game that actually did have real widescreen support. So that's kind of interesting. Let's get out of there. I didn't set up my buttons to the green. Oh god, let's start it over. Alright.
Select course by wheel and step on gas pedal.
3, 2, 1, go!
Anyways, you get the idea. So a game that looked like it just didn't want to work anymore on the latest version of MAME, it just needed 2 files, and you don't have to know what the files are. It tells you on the error screen. Shoot, when I tried to get Primal Rage working, it didn't like my old version of the ROM, so I had to get that. But it also wanted me to get some crazy file called freaking JVS13551.zip. I was like, okay. Or maybe it was the TMS32031. I don't know. But so there's all these little chips and BIOS things that you're also going to need to get the latest version of MAME to work all your games. Some of them just work right away. Like even an old ROM will work just with no tweaking and just happy. But some of them want all this extra crap. But so far I haven't found anything that I can't get working. So that's cool. And that website has everything. It's all there. Like everything I need is on this freaking website right here. So don't spread the word too much and get, you know, the attention of almighty Nintendo, you know, and the eye of Sauron upon them, and then, or they'll go the way of Emu Paradise. So keep it on the down low. But this website, I'll put a link to it in the description, and it's got everything you need. I will point out one drawback though that I've found so far. The only drawback to using the latest version, Mortal Kombat 2 Plus, the version that Paul Eaker made, where it's like the fan service improved version of Mortal Kombat 2 that has all the things that they didn't have time for and had to cut and left out, and all the moves that should have been in the game, and the like improvements, and just the perfect version of Mortal Kombat 2. Anyways, Mortal Kombat 2 Plus with all its extra features and bells and whistles is so cool. However, it doesn't work in the new version of MAME no matter what the heck I do. I tried everything. I cannot get it to work. So that's a bummer. Now in the old version, let me close this. In the old 192 version of MAME, I have no problem running Mortal Kombat 2 Plus. So as you can see here, I'll just do it real quick.
Excellent. Get done. Round 1, fight.
You hear the new voice for Jax when he gets hurt and stuff. If a girl gets the fatality where kiss of death and she blows up, it's a new scream. They put the orange back in on the pit stage. I mean, there's thousands of little improvements. Mortal Kombat 2 Plus is so awesome. And so I still got to keep an old version of MAME on my computer just for this game.
Finish him. Kitana wins. Flawless victory.
I still haven't unlocked Shao Kahn and Kintaro yet. It's freaking hard. I haven't fought Hornbuckle yet either, but they put him back in there. Anyways, I think this video has gone on long enough. I should point out some things that I've noticed can crash the new version of MAME. Inside your mame.ini on the new version of MAME, way down here above the GLSL specific options, you've got this filter and prescale. If you had prescale at 0, sometimes it crashes the new version of MAME. It has to be at 1. It doesn't recognize 0 as an option there, so I just want to point that out. Also, sometimes I've noticed that putting HLSL oversampling on can also crash, and I don't know why, but sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but I don't use it anyways. So I was just going to point those little things out, that it seems like it can be a little unstable sometimes, and it doesn't play Mortal Kombat 2 Plus. But other than that, it plays everything if you download the appropriate things you need that it's looking for, and it plays them so well and with little improvements. Even like Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition didn't want to run, and I thought, oh, because the Q sound. So I updated Q sound, HLE, whatever, better Q sound. And I thought, oh, it's not that. And it was some little file I never heard. So they made some weird little improvement to old Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition that I don't even know what they did, but it's better. And then even stuff that never, ever, ever would have worked before in MAME, it now tries to work. I mean, the Virtua Fighter stuff's good. Soul Calibur's still kind of slow. Freaking Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That would never, ever in a million years ever work in MAME, but now it tries to work. I had to download some extra little files, and it doesn't work properly. It's super slow, but you can try to make it work. So let's go. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes in MAME, which everybody like, that would never happen. And it's still not there. It's still broken. It's too slow. It's unplayable. But just the fact that it will actually try to load in now and try to run, that's pretty crazy. Gotta wait forever for this slow crap. Come on. Star Wars Trilogy still doesn't have proper audio, but it's playable. What else? Yeah, Primal Rage still has some bugs that I really wish they could figure out a way to fix, like, you know, where characters don't land on the ground level, they're kind of floaty sometimes, and they need to fix that. You like how slow it is? Obviously this is unplayable, and you're better off playing it on a PS2 emulator or a Dreamcast emulator for a better experience. But I just want to show you that you can, the fact that you can even get in game in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in MAME is crazy, because before it would never even start the game, you know. So to me that's kind of a crazy thing. I never set my buttons up. Obviously it's unplayable. Look how slow it is. But I was just making a point. It's like, so there, you know, I don't remember if R-Type 1 used to work in my last version of MAME. I think it didn't work, but now it does. Like, it's like, oh, that's cool. Ah, I'm dead already. Accidentally hit that thing. Shoot. Anyways, I can't go on forever. There's other improvements that I did find, but I just don't want to go on forever. The whole point is, it's probably a good time to upgrade if you haven't upgraded in a really long time. And that website I'm going to leave a link to in the description that has everything you need. And I hope it doesn't get taken down real soon. So, I don't know, fingers crossed. And the website's, you know, like I say, don't spread the word too far and wide. Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.